I just wonder if you've ever done a brief on that or talked about allocution, because basically, once you say that that's what that man did, he was claiming allocution. Who's got joinder? Who is the party that he's looking? Where basically boils it down. Who's the injured party?
That's it. That's exactly what he did. It was at the end of the trial, and he just stood up, and that's it. And that's basically what most people, I tell people to say. Don't say a damn thing at all. Then you get elocution at the end if you don't say anything. That's the rules. Even Crown Court has those same rules. And that's what I do sometimes. If there's more than like what I did with Bali and the other Punjabis, what I did is I had Bali act during the trial, and I didn't have the other two acts, so that way they could do, like you said, the elocution at the end. And the closing statement I presented to the court was unbelievable. I mean, I'm good when I want to make a hell of a closing statement that makes everybody just shake their head and think, like, So it's always nice to be the last one talking. But that's always good to have two defendants or whatever, like two going. That way you could split it up. One guy could stand mute the whole time, and the other guy could actually present their case. So, yeah. Is that what you're talking about? How... I just like a great closing statement. Like the men in federal prison, I want to know what their closing statement was. I want to know what they said. And it's like, it's like, look, you sent me the federal charges against you. I read it. I read the federal case. I want to know what you did before the trial, during the trial, and most importantly, what did you do at the time of sentencing? Sentencing is a huge thing. I want to know what you said at the end, at the closing. Well, you use a fancy word like elocution, if you want to. But I just want to know how the end of the show, the closing act, the final scene. It's very important. You just don't stand there and just say, just take it. You better put on a final act. You better put on a final scene. That's noteworthy. Or you're gone.
Right, and I actually didn't understand. I didn't know about the term allocution when I was in front of the judge, and they asked me, and they said, "You got anything to say?" And I just said, "No."
It's a pretty boring final act. That's one more stage, right? You got right where you do the plea. You got where you actually are on trial, and then you actually got the final scene. The elocution. You want to use the elocution, you just confuse the shit out of everybody by saying that word. Just say the final scene. When is your last time to say forever hold the peace? You got anything else to say before the court passes a sentence? There you go. Then do it. Lay it out.
Well, I want to read you something real quick. This was on NPR the other day where a congressman was talking about suing. It's actually on the internet right now. Congressman in Texas and stuff talk about suing the federal government, suing the president. And right here, even on NPR, the host and stuff, it says here, Congress don't even have the right to sue. They don't have standing because they haven't been harmed by the president's actions.
Within an administration.
If they say it right there in NPR, it's right there for everybody.
Everything they do is for show.
They can. I do believe that the United States Supreme Court was absolutely 100% correct with that, because that's the purpose of the United States Supreme Court, is only to dispute challenges between, say, the executive branch and the legislative branch. That's their job. That's the number one job of the United States Supreme Court. Not in who can have an abortion, who can't have an abortion. That's not their job. Their job was to determine whether or not the president was stepping outside of his bounds or the legislative branch was getting too big for their britches. That was their first job, and then to settle disputes amongst the states. Or the other one that I love that everybody forgets, one of the number one things that the Supreme Court is supposed to do is if a citizen of California is sued or is being made a claim that's done wrong by the state of California, the first court of jurisdiction is the Supreme Court. So if California is coming after a California citizen, all a California citizen has to say is like, well, when the state is coming after me, aren't we supposed to bring this before the United States Supreme Court? And if you read the Constitution, it clearly says yes. Because obviously, how could you have a fair trial in the state of California if you're a California resident, a California citizen? How could you possibly have a fair trial when the state is coming after you? How can you have it in your own state? It can't be done.
No.
So like I said, if somebody's reading the Constitution right now, it's like, wow, let's read the judicial, portion of the Constitution right now, real quick. It's really short. It's like 3/4 of a page. Let's see what Carl's talking about. The court of original jurisdiction, when the citizen of a state against the state is to be the United States Supreme Court. So why doesn't everybody in the state of California, it's like the state of California versus Bob Jones, why don't they have it transferred to the court of original jurisdiction, which would be the United States Supreme Court? Pretty funny.
And I thought we lost you there for a second.
Yeah.
It's hysterical. So did anybody find that the court of original jurisdiction, when it's a citizen of a state against the state, is the United States Supreme Court? Anybody Googling that real quick or looking it up in the Constitution real quick and saying, holy shit, Carl's right? Pretty funny.
Well, I just couldn't believe it. This is on NPR. This is about Obama requesting $2 billion for to deal with the border issues, and they're talking. And I couldn't believe I heard this right out of the one of the. There's two of the NPR people talking, and she says that this one congressman was going to file a lawsuit against the president, and then the other lady says, well, they can't file a lawsuit because they don't have standing because they haven't been harmed by the president's actions, a
congressman could sue the president. It's like the fork suing the spoon. It's not a man on a man.
But I just think
it's just a character, and within the Constitution, it clearly says that if there's a dispute between the executive and legislative branch, they're to meet up in the United States Supreme Court and let the United States Supreme Court determine the outcome. All you are arguing characters. You're not arguing about a man named Barack Obama who's the president of the United States. They're not suing the man. They're suing the president.
Right.
They're suing the person.
And it's all for show anyway. Nothing's going to come of it.
But I think you're missing what I'm saying is that they're stating the whole manner of judicial jurisdiction right here. They just said it. If nobody has standing, they don't have standing because nobody's been harmed. It doesn't matter who it is, whether it's a president or who. If there's no injured party, then how could somebody take a claim against somebody? Unless it's a contract.
It's a contract dispute. The Constitution, a charter, is a contract.
Yes.
And it's saying there's certain guidelines or bylaws written within this Constitution or this contract in which the executive branch is not living up to. So we, the legislative branch, is going to move the judicial branch because it is our duty to do such an act, because this is what we subscribed ourselves to perform. This is what they were told to do. This is what they swore they would do. If we catch the executive branch stepping out of the bounds, we're going to bring it to the Supreme Court's attention, and they are supposed to advise the executive branch. The judicial branch cannot force the executive branch to do anything. They can just say, well, the opinion of the United States Supreme Court is the legislative branch is correct. So since it's correct, the president should take the opinion of this court, and they should do what the legislative branch tells them to do. And he'll be like, that's right, should, could, would. It's all an opinion. You know what? I'm still going to do what I'm going to do because I feel it's necessary and proper to carry out the function of this government to execute it. He's just going to rely upon the Constitution, Article 1, Section 18. All he's going to say is whatever he feels is necessary and proper for the execution of the Constitution, him or his agencies or his offices have the right to carry it out. And that's all he's going to rely upon.
I just wanted to hit you with that term, allocution, and I'll let Angela mute me out. So I thought that was an important thing when you're talking about this guy that...
You just confused the shit out of 99% of the people listening to it, but yeah, I understood what you're saying.
Well, I found out about allocution because it's actually... Custard, when he was in West Point, he was brought up on charges because he swatted one of the officers, and that was supposed to be one of the things that you're not supposed to do. And he said he's supposed to sign something when he went to West Point. And he said, I never signed anything, and he went scrambling. And basically, it was his allocution. Basically, it was an allocution action. Said, hey, wait a minute. You're bringing charges against me for something I apparently supposed to have signed or done. Well, they made sure he signed it afterwards, and that's how I found out about allocution. Well,
like I said, it's just a famous final scene. I mean, you could use a fancy word like elocution. You could use it if you wish to, but I just tell you people, you show at the very end that there has been no jurisdiction established this whole entire time. There has been no man who's come forth to claim any wrong, any harm, any injury, any irreparable loss. Nobody has brought forth any damages in which anybody could prove that I've been the cause of. There you go. That's your famous final scene, or we say allocution, whatever you want to say. That's fine.